Jax's Revenge Domain.
You know that sound a server rack makes when it's running at full capacity? It's like hearing someone's lungs work overtime. That mechanical hum has been my background music for the last 22 years. I'm the guy who keeps your credit card from getting declined when you're buying groceries at midnight. I'm the reason those cash registers don't turn into expensive paperweights every time there's a power surge. My name is Roger Torres. I'm 54 years old, and until about an hour ago, I was the senior infrastructure engineer for Garrison Retail Network. We're talking about 2,800 stores spread across 3 continents, all held together by fiber optic cables and my constant attention to detail. Most people think technology just works by magic. It doesn't. It works because guys like me spend our weekends in basement server rooms that smell like ozone and stale coffee, fixing code written by programmers who retired when Clinton was in office. The first Clinton, Lawrence Garrison, hired me 22 years ago, right before Y2K had everyone convinced the world was going to end. He was old school. Built this empire from a single hardware store in Ohio back in 1967, the man understood that you don't construct a skyscraper on quicksand. He found me troubleshooting a point-of-sale terminal at a competitor's store while I was buying batteries for my kids' Game Boys. I had my toolkit in the car because that's what you do when you actually care about keeping things running. He didn't smile when he offered me the job, just asked about my experience with legacy systems and whether I'd ever worked a 72-hour shift. I told him about Y2K prep work I'd been doing for smaller companies. He nodded like that's what he expected to hear. I liked that he didn't want cheerleaders. He wanted mechanics for 22 years. I was the invisible foundation. I wasn't in the annual reports with the marketing team who looked like they came out of a corporate catalog. I was the one they called at 3 a.m. on Christmas when the inventory database decided to crash. I was the only person who knew that our entire East Coast pricing system depended on a single server we called Methuselah, running code written in a programming language they stopped teaching when Bush was president. The first Bush, I kept the lights on, I kept the scanners beeping, I kept the money flowing, and I did it by focusing on what mattered, making sure systems worked, not playing office politics or attending meetings about meetings. During the dot-com crash, when other companies were laying off entire IT departments, Lawrence kept me on. He understood that keeping a network running isn't about having the latest software or the hippest workspace. It's about having someone who knows where all the bodies are buried, someone who can trace a system failure through 20 years of patches and workarounds to find the one loose connection that's causing million-dollar headaches. I learned every cable, every switch, every server in that network. I could tell you which rack runs hot, which backup drives are starting to show wear, which connections get flaky when the humidity changes. When Hurricane Sandy took out our Newark data center, I was the one who stayed behind to manually route traffic through backup systems while emergency crews evacuated the building. I wasn't being heroic, I was being practical. Someone had to keep 1,200 East Coast stores processing credit cards, or we'd lose more money in 6 hours than my salary for 3 years. But when you're invisible, people forget you exist. They forget about the 18-hour shifts during Black Friday prep when I lived on vending machine sandwiches and coffee that could strip paint. They forget that technology isn't some friendly robot that loves everyone. It's a complex beast that wants to eat itself. And I'm the one with the tranquilizer gun. My wife Sarah used to joke that I was married to the company first and her second. She wasn't entirely wrong. When our kids were little, I missed soccer games and school plays because some server in Phoenix was throwing memory errors. But I never missed a paycheck, never missed a mortgage payment, never had to tell my family we couldn't afford something because daddy's job was in jeopardy. That reliability meant something to me, still does. Lawrence understood that. He'd built something that lasted, and he knew that lasting things require constant maintenance. Not flashy upgrades every 6 months, but steady, competent care from people who take pride in their work. Lawrence died 8 months ago. Massive heart attack right there in his office, probably brought on by 40 years of 12-hour days and gas station coffee. The funeral was packed with people who never understood what he'd built, talking about his vision and legacy and disrupting the retail space. I stood in the back wearing my only good suit, watching them lower his casket. I knew what was being buried with him. The institutional knowledge, the understanding that technology isn't just about having the newest toys, it's about systems that actually work under pressure. That's when everything started falling apart, though none of us knew it yet. Enter Ashley Garrison, Lawrence's daughter and the new chief operating officer. She's 32, has teeth whiter than fresh printer paper, and an MBA from Wharton that cost more than my house. Her operational experience could fit on a business card with room left over for a grocery list. The closest she'd ever come to retail was a summer internship at a consulting firm that advised retail companies about digital transformation. She swept into the executive suite like a tornado made of expensive perfume and corporate buzzwords, talking about pivoting the company toward next-generation customer experiences and disrupting legacy paradigms. She didn't know what a server looked like, but she definitely knew she wanted to optimize our human capital and implement agile methodologies across all verticals. I kept my head down, updated security patches, monitored system loads, straightened cables in the racks. I figured she'd eventually settle into her corner office and let the people who actually knew what they were doing handle the technical side. After all, the company was making money, customer satisfaction was high. System uptime was better than 99.7%. What was there to fix? I was wrong about that too. It started with emails about enhancing the energy of the IT department, memos about eliminating toxic negativity from employees who didn't embrace change enthusiastically enough. I ignored them. I'm not paid to do team building exercises or trust falls. I'm paid to make sure when someone scans a gallon of milk, the price shows up correctly and not as $0.050, but silence bothers people like Ashley. She needs validation, she needs an audience, and nothing irritates someone like that more than a person who looks at them and sees an amateur playing dress-up in daddy's company. The real trouble began when she hired McKinsey Consulting Group to do an organizational efficiency audit. 3 kids fresh out of business school showed up with clipboards and laptops, asking questions like, "What's your value proposition?" And "How do you measure success metrics?" I told them my value proposition was keeping 2,800 stores from turning into expensive doorstops. And my success metric was that customers could buy things without the registers catching fire. They didn't think that was funny. One of them, a kid named Brad, who looked like he'd never worked a day that didn't involve air conditioning, asked me to walk him through a typical day. I showed him the server room, explained the monitoring systems, demonstrated how I track network traffic across 3 time zones. He kept nodding and typing on his laptop, asking follow-up questions that made it clear he thought infrastructure was something you could download from an app store. "So this is all legacy architecture?" he asked, gesturing at 22 years of carefully maintained equipment. "This is proven architecture," I corrected. "It works." "But it's not cloud native, it's reality native. It processes 2.3 million transactions per day without breaking." He made a note about my resistance to innovation. The audit report came back 3 weeks later. According to McKinsey Consulting, the IT department was overstaffed, underutilized, and operating on obsolete paradigms that inhibited scalability and agile response to market dynamics. They recommended outsourcing infrastructure management to a cloud services provider who could deliver next-generation solutions with improved cost efficiency and reduced operational overhead. In plain English, fire the expensive old guy and hire some cheap kids who know how to use Amazon Web Services. Ashley loved it. She scheduled an all-hands meeting to present the findings and announce the new direction. I sat in the back of the conference room, listening to her talk about digital transformation like it was a religious conversion. She had slides with charts and graphs showing potential cost savings and efficiency gains. She had buzzwords like synergy and optimization and paradigm shift. What she didn't have was any understanding of what those systems actually did or how they worked. Tommy Walsh, my most capable junior engineer, raised his hand during the Q&A. "What about the Torres security protocol?" he asked. "The audit doesn't mention our custom authentication systems." Ashley looked confused. "I'm sorry, the what protocol?" "Torres security protocol," Tommy explained. "Roger designed it after the target breach. It's a failsafe that monitors administrator activity and assumes compromise if the primary custodian doesn't authenticate every 45 minutes. It's hard-coded into the core systems." "I'm sure the consulting team can work around any legacy security features," Ashley said dismissively. "They're experts in enterprise migration." I almost spoke up then, almost. But I'd learned long ago that people who use the word legacy to describe working systems usually have to learn their lessons the hard way. After the meeting, Tommy cornered me by the elevators. "Roger, they can't just migrate away from custom security protocols. That's not how any of this works." "I know that, you know that." "They don't know that. I push the elevator button, but they'll figure it out. What if they don't figure it out in time? Then they'll call us. What if they fire us first?" I looked at Tommy, this smart kid who reminded me of myself 22 years ago, full of technical competence and naive faith that competence would be recognized and rewarded. Then they'll really learn something about legacy systems. 2 days later, I was in the middle of a critical database migration, moving terabytes of customer loyalty data from our aging cluster to a new secure environment when the summons came. Not an email or a calendar invitation. Ashley's assistant, Brooke, appeared at my server room door with a smile bright enough to power a small town. "Roger, Ashley is ready to connect with you now." "We weren't scheduled to connect," I said, not looking up from my monitors. The migration was at a critical phase, transferring credit card tokens and purchase histories for 1.2 million customers across the Midwest region. "I'm moving financial data. If I stop now, we could lose customer information that took 5 years to accumulate." "Oh, I'm sure it can wait," Brooke chirped. She's super excited to discuss the infrastructure roadmap with you. I looked at the scrolling lines of code on my screen, green text on black background, the heartbeat of the company. Transaction logs flowing like digital blood through fiber optic arteries. The transfer was stable for now, running through automated checkpoints I'd built over years of late-night emergency recoveries. My knees popped when I stood up. 22 years of sitting at computers, crawling under desks, and climbing server racks will do that to you. "Fine," I said. "Let's go discuss this roadmap." The elevator ride to the top floor felt different this time. The air got thinner as we rose, less like honest work and more like expensive meetings about meetings. I could feel the building's data flowing beneath my feet, through cables in the walls, through switches in utility closets most people never noticed. All of it depended on systems I'd built, protocols I'd written, fail-safes I'd designed during weekends when normal people were watching football. Ashley's office looked like a hotel lobby in Dubai. The heavy oak desk Lawrence had used, scarred with decades of real decisions and coffee stains from all-night problem-solving sessions, was gone. In its place was a glass table that looked like it would shatter if you put actual paperwork on it. The walls that used to display photos of store openings and employee recognition awards now featured abstract art that probably cost more than my annual salary. Ashley was standing by the window in a pose that belonged in a magazine. Her suit was too blue and her heels were too high for someone who supposedly spent her days solving operational challenges. When I walked in, she flashed that practiced smile. All surface, no substance, like a web page with nothing behind it but marketing copy. "Roger," she announced like we were old college friends instead of two people who'd exchanged maybe 20 words in 8 months. Come in, come in. Want some water? I have this amazing alkaline blend that's supposed to optimize cognitive function." "I'm fine, Ashley," I said, staying standing. "What's the emergency?" "The data migration is paused, and paused data makes me nervous." "Emergency? No emergency," she laughed, waving dismissively. She sat behind the glass desk in a chair that probably cost more than my first car, just a strategic alignment session. A bandwidth optimization meeting. I stared at her. Bandwidth optimization. She'd learned just enough technical vocabulary to be dangerous. Exactly. "Look, Roger," she said, picking up a folder from her desk, my personnel file. "I've been doing a deep dive into our organizational structure, analyzing the flow of resources throughout the company, and to execute our digital transformation initiative. We need team members who embody that forward-thinking spirit. We need people who can pivot with agility." I watched her rifle through paperwork that documented 22 years of my professional life, performance reviews that consistently rated me as exceeding expectations, incident reports showing 99.7% system uptime under my management, commendations from regional managers whose stores I'd kept running through hurricanes, power outages, and equipment failures. "I've been reviewing your performance metrics," she continued, dropping her voice like she was sharing classified information. "Technically, you're outstanding. System uptime is incredible. Security protocols are bulletproof. Customer transaction processing runs like clockwork. But," she tapped the folder with a fingernail that probably got more maintenance than some of our servers, "cultural alignment, synergy with our evolving corporate vision. It's just not there. I manage the back-end infrastructure for 2,800 stores." I said evenly. "My job isn't to align with vision statements. My job is to make sure the credit card terminals don't crash when 50 million people try to buy holiday gifts at the same time. See?" Ashley pointed at me like I'd just proven her point. Right there. That mindset. It's heavy. It's resistant to innovation. It creates a drag on the entire team's energy. "Roger," a muscle under my left eye started twitching. "You want me to bring positive energy to a network intrusion? Should I smile while fixing ransomware? We need innovators. People who say yes instead of no. People who embrace possibilities instead of focusing on limitations and worst-case scenarios all the time." I thought about the possibilities I'd embraced over the years. The possibility that a forgotten backup routine might save us millions in lost data. The possibility that redundant systems might prevent catastrophic failures. The possibility that planning for worst-case scenarios might actually prevent them from happening. "Ashley, the systems I manage are 22 years old. They're held together by custom scripts and patches that I wrote personally during nights and weekends. They don't embrace possibilities. They follow protocols and execute commands according to logical parameters. She sighed dramatically, like a theater major playing the role of a patient teacher. I was afraid you wouldn't get it. You're analog thinking in a digital world, Roger. That's why I'm bringing in a consulting firm to handle IT infrastructure modernization. Cloud-native specialists with experience in enterprise migration. Young talent with fresh perspectives and agile methodologies. The room went quiet except for the HVAC system cycling air. I could hear my own heartbeat. You're outsourcing the core network. We're upgrading our human resources portfolio, she corrected, sliding a piece of paper across the glass desk. Effective immediately. Standard severance package. 2 weeks pay, excellent recommendation letter. Clean transition. I looked at the termination agreement. Legal boilerplate about voluntary resignation and non-disclosure clauses. A paragraph about returning company property and maintaining confidentiality about proprietary systems. Standard corporate language designed to make firing someone sound like a mutual business decision. Then I looked at her. She really had no idea. She thought running a network was like ordering coffee through a mobile app. Point, click, receive service. Ashley, I said quietly, does the new consulting team know about the Torres security protocol? She blinked twice, her perfect makeup not quite hiding the confusion. The what protocol? The Torres security protocol, the failsafe your father and I built into the core systems after the Target breach made headlines. It requires dual authentication from a master administrator account every 45 minutes from my specific account with biometric verification. She rolled her eyes like I was a child making up stories about monsters under the bed. Oh God, here we go with the technical jargon. They'll figure it out, Roger. They're specialists. They have cloud experience and enterprise certifications. They've migrated Fortune 500 companies to modern infrastructure. They have cloud experience, I repeated slowly. The absurdity was almost beautiful. Do they have experience with proprietary security protocols written in assembly language and hard-coded into firmware that hasn't been updated since 2003? Look, don't try to scare me with ghost stories about old code. She snapped, her facade cracking like cheap paint in the heat. This is a business decision based on objective analysis and consultant recommendations. We need to eliminate inefficiencies and optimize our cost structure. You're terminated, Roger. Please surrender your access badge and any company equipment. I stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of 22 years settling on my shoulders. I could fight this. I could demand to speak to the board of directors. I could drag Tommy and the other engineers up here to explain why the Torres protocol wasn't just technical jargon, but a critical security system that prevented unauthorized access to customer financial data. But then I looked at her smug face, at the motivational poster behind her desk that said "Innovate or Die" in flowing script, at the glass table that probably cost more than a decent server, and I realized something important. I didn't want to save her. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my badge. The plastic was worn smooth from 22 years of daily use. The magnetic strip faded from thousands of swipes through security readers. It was the key to everything. Server rooms, data centers, administrative systems, emergency protocols, the digital equivalent of the keys to the kingdom. Okay, I said. She looked surprised. She'd expected a scene, maybe tears, possibly some begging or negotiation. Just like that. Just like that. I placed the badge on her glass desk with a sharp click that seemed to echo in the sterile office space. You want fresh perspectives and agile methodologies? You've got them. Excellent. Great. This is going to be so much better for everyone. She was already looking at her phone, dismissing me like a problem that had been solved. Brooke will escort you out. No need to go back downstairs to collect personal items. We'll mail anything you left behind. No need, I said. I travel light, always have. I turned toward the door, my hand already on the polished chrome handle when I stopped. Ashley, what? She didn't look up from her phone. Check the system monitoring dashboards in about 30 minutes, I said. You'll want to see how agile methodologies handle legacy dependencies. I walked out of that office for the last time, leaving behind 22 years of institutional knowledge, professional relationships, and loyalty to a company that had just decided I was obsolete. The elevator ride down felt different this time. I wasn't going to my basement office to check server status and respond to support tickets. Ashley had said effective immediately, and I follow instructions precisely. No reason to drag this out or make dramatic gestures. The systems would speak for themselves soon enough. As I walked through the lobby toward the revolving doors, my phone started buzzing. Slack notifications. One, then another, then a flood of messages that lit up my screen like a Christmas tree. Tommy Walsh from Network Operations. Roger, why is your account showing as disabled in Active Directory? Patricia Flores from the Texas Regional Office. Did she actually do it? Tell me she didn't actually fire you right now. Kevin from IT Support in California. Roger, We have authentication errors starting to show up on the West Coast monitoring boards. Need you to check the primary authentication server. I ignored them all. I wasn't the senior infrastructure engineer anymore. I was just a 54-year-old guy with a sudden abundance of free time and a growing sense that the next few hours were going to be very educational for a lot of people. I had to pass the monitoring room on my way out. Through the glass wall, I could see Tommy Walsh and 3 junior analysts staring at their screens like they were watching the digital equivalent of a slow-motion car accident. When they spotted me walking past, it was like watching a submarine crew when the hull starts groaning under pressure. Tommy actually ran out to intercept me in the hallway. "Roger," he whispered, looking over his shoulder toward the elevators. "Security just disabled your credentials across all systems. What's happening?" "The transaction servers are showing yellow warning indicators." "I've been terminated, Tommy," I said, straightening my jacket. "Digital Transformation Initiative. You guys are the cloud-native specialists now." His face went pale. "Cloud-native, Roger. We don't know the legacy authentication protocols. The documentation for the core security systems. It's all in your head. We've been asking you for months to write it down. You'll figure it out," I said, though we both knew they wouldn't, not in time. "Roger," Tommy grabbed my arm, his voice dropping to an urgent whisper, "the heartbeat function. You explained it to me once during that disaster preparedness briefing. The system checks for you specifically, doesn't it?" I stopped walking. This kid was the only one who'd actually listened during my training sessions instead of playing on his phone. "System polls for primary custodian authentication every 45 minutes, I said. My last successful login was exactly 10:15 a.m., right before I went upstairs. Tommy looked at his watch with the expression of someone doing very unpleasant math. "We have 32 minutes before it locks down." "Not locks down," I corrected. "Enters preservation mode. The Torres protocol assumes the custodian is dead or the company's been compromised. It severs external connections to protect sensitive customer data. It's a feature your father insisted on after the Target breach made national headlines." Tommy's voice cracked like a teenager asking someone to prom. "It disconnects all the stores. It disconnects everything," I said. "Every point-of-sale terminal, every credit card processor, every inventory system. Complete network isolation until authorized personnel can verify system integrity." I pushed through the revolving doors into bright afternoon sunlight. Behind me, through the thick glass, I could see Tommy sprinting back to the monitoring room like his hair was on fire. I saw him shouting at the other analysts, pointing at screens, grabbing phones. I walked to my car, a reliable 12-year-old sedan with 180,000 miles and a payment book that would be finished in 8 months. I sat there for a moment watching the dashboard clock tick toward the inevitable. 10:47 a.m., 10:48 a.m., 10:49 a.m. I closed my eyes and imagined the authentication query racing through fiber optic cables from our Phoenix data center to backup servers in Nevada and Virginia. A simple database lookup that had been running automatically every 45 minutes for the last 8 years. Query: custodian status check, user Artori's response, uno retry, null action. Initiate Torres protocol Delta the Beast had awakened and couldn't find its keeper. Now it was going to protect itself the only way it knew how. I started the car and drove home slowly, taking surface streets instead of the highway. Classic rock was on the radio. I turned it up loud. For the first time in 22 years, I didn't have to answer emergency calls, or carry a pager, or worry about server alerts, interrupting dinner with my family. The phone calls started around 11:05 a.m. First Tommy, then regional managers, then people I'd never heard of calling from store locations across the country. I let them all go to voicemail. I wasn't the senior infrastructure engineer anymore. I was just a guy enjoying his unexpected day off. Around 11:15, Patricia Flores called from Texas. She managed 85 stores across the Dallas-Fort Worth area with the efficiency of a military logistics coordinator and the patience of a kindergarten teacher. We'd worked together on countless system upgrades and emergency recoveries. "Roger, what in the hell is happening?" Her voice was tight with retail panic. "My terminals just died. All of them. 85 stores. I have lines of customers backed up to the parking lots and the point-of-sale systems are asking for custodian authorization codes." "What does that even mean?" "That's new territory, Patricia," I said calmly, though I knew exactly what it meant. "Don't give me that calm IT voice, Roger." I called the help desk and got a busy signal. I called the monitoring room and Tommy sounds like he's having some kind of nervous breakdown. Then I called Ashley's office and her assistant told me to trust the process and restart all the equipment. We restarted everything, Roger. Now the screens just show a picture of a basset hound with text that says System Lockdown, Contact Network Administrator. I couldn't help smiling. That's not just any basset hound, Patricia. That's Lawrence's old dog, Barnaby. Default lockout screen for unauthorized access attempts. Why am I looking at a dead dog instead of processing credit card transactions? Because Ashley terminated me about an hour ago, I said. She didn't understand the handoff protocols. The system thinks the company's been taken over by hostile actors, so it's protecting customer financial data. Silence on the other end of the line, the kind of silence that weighs more than sound. She what? Fired me for negative energy and resistance to innovation. She didn't check the technical dependencies before eliminating the primary system administrator. The network assumes I'm dead, so it's locking down to prevent data theft. Sweet Jesus, Roger. You have to fix this. I'm losing $85,000 an hour here. I can't, Patricia. I don't work there anymore. Accessing the system now would be federal computer crimes. Unauthorized access to protected financial networks. I could go to prison. By 1:30 p.m., this had become a national news story. I sat on my couch watching CNN with a sandwich and a beer. The ticker read, Garrison Retail Network down 14% in trading. System-wide technical failure affects 2,800 locations. A reporter was standing outside our Manhattan flagship store. This appears to be a complete infrastructure failure, she said, pressing her earpiece against the noise of confused customers. Not a single transaction has processed in over 2,800 locations nationwide for nearly 3 hours. Industry analysts estimate revenue losses at $12 million per hour. $12 million per hour, I did the math in my head. Ashley's decision to optimize my $98,000 salary had already cost the company roughly $36 million in lost revenue, plus incalculable damage to customer loyalty and brand reputation. My house phone rang at 3:45 p.m. Barbara Stevens, Board of Directors. The sharks were circling, but they weren't calling to attack. They were calling because the water was full of blood, and it was their own. I answered on the 5th ring. Roger, Barbara's voice was crisp, professional, stripped of all pleasantries. We need to talk, the rest, as they say, is history. By 6 p.m., I was Chief Infrastructure Officer with a seat on the Board of Directors and veto power over any operational decision affecting core systems. Ashley was reassigned to strategic consulting, corporate speak for a graceful exit with full severance. Standing in that server room later that evening, listening to the familiar hum of cooling fans and hard drives spinning at 7,200 RPM, I realized something had fundamentally changed. Not just my title or my salary or my parking space. For 22 years, I'd been the invisible foundation that everyone took for granted. Now I was the visible guardian that everyone finally respected. They'd learned the difference between cost center and critical asset. Sometimes the best teacher is consequence. Listen, if you're a guy like me, someone who spent decades building something real, something that works, something that matters, don't let them convince you that experience is obsolete. Don't let them tell you that institutional knowledge is just overhead to be optimized away. Your expertise has value, your reliability has worth. And when the young executives with their buzzwords and their fresh energy finally crash into reality, they're going to need someone who actually knows how to fix things. Make sure they remember that before it's too late, because systems don't run on enthusiasm, they run on competence. And competence, real competence, takes time to build and seconds to destroy.